new toy. Um, so I was going to mention on the last Chrome update that I had got a new microphone, but the camera ran out of space, so I did not get to say that. Um, so here it is, and it sounds much better than the camera microphone that I had been using previously. Um, and also, I don't have to be right in front of it, so that also helps tremendously. I got my little spoon pipe going on. I got some Silver Surfer in it, and I'm kind of just gonna do a short little update on these videos. Ooh, it's delicious. Oh, this Silver Surfer was just everything that I wanted it to be. It's light on the lungs. It's right up here in the head, and it stays there. It helps me focus. Uh, I smoked a little bit of it and was able to hammer out a 4-page essay in just about in under an hour, um, which was super nice because I know that some of the indicas for me personally are just like it would have taken me just a little longer, and I had a little bit harder time focusing. The Silver Surfer has been a godsend to me, and I am just fucking in love with this strain. If you notice, there's no pop filter on here, so I'm trying to intentionally talk above the mic a little bit so it doesn't get any of that uh, pop, I guess. Um, so, an update for the videos is I'm in a position at the moment where um, progressively more and more as the cannabis laws change, I am seeing an interesting movement in opinions on a lot of different fronts. Things are coming to an interesting point for many different states where people are starting to use the stigmas and um, the kind of a porcelain mask of sort to hide their true intentions when they make these legislative changes. Like when I did the Oregon video, people using public safety as a disguise for wanting to just increase um, the money in their bank to not allow other people to do it at home, even though we all are aware, or anybody who knows has researched extracts knows that there are safe ways to do this without using butane and to eliminate the use of or the extraction from home grows is kind of unnecessary, or greatly unnecessary. Um, Here in Washington, we're seeing a growing disparity between the Cannabis and Liquor Control Board and the medical community. And we're seeing uh, that the medical patients don't know who to be mad at. They, they don't know who to point fingers at. They don't know who to go to talk to or present changes to for many different reasons. We're seeing recalls in Colorado. We're seeing we're seeing a lot of stuff that we all knew was bound to happen eventually. And so there's so many of these stories happening right now that I'm not really entirely sure which ones to really talk about. I think that if I was to try and keep up with this, it's all I would do is go through these stories, and I on top of being a full-time student, that's unrealistic. So I'm going to try and paraphrase a lot of these things because there are a few topics that I definitely want to get off my chest. One was Buzzfeed did this article, and it was God, it's so dumb. I hate this so much because I feel like every time this conversation comes up, I have to make some sort of big ass disclaimer because people are just gonna get fucking offended as somebody who thinks differently than them. Um, BuzzFeed released an article on the whites only cannabis boom in the country, and basically was trying to um, again put people in boxes and say that your box is being treated differently than that box, and that box is getting more opportunity than your box. And it's again something that I retain the position, as I always have in since the beginning of the cannabis industry, since before the cannabis industry, as just a basic principle of being human, is that we all deserve equal opportunity to succeed in life, regardless of industry, regardless of pursuit. Equal opportunity should be undoubtedly presented on all sides. With that being said, the only way that that can happen is if you present an opportunity to go, this thing right here. Oh, well, I'll get my hand in the picture. This thing right here is saying that you have a different opportunity than that person. But if you're just saying it as a generalized term, like these people or these rich white people are taking opportunities from poor black people, well, it's one of those statements. It's not wrong. It's not wrong, but it's wrong, but it's right for the wrong reasons. Because those rich people, because there are plenty of wealthy people who are from many different countries with many different ethnicities, and the wealthy people are the people who are taking opportunities away from all of us. It's this transcends the small-minded scope of looking at race, looking at gender. This is about money, and money in a large aspect of our lives has corrupted a lot. And we have people that have come in from out of country to start cannabis businesses, people who don't even have citizenship from other countries who are starting these businesses, who have sold everything in their home and moved, or are sending family members to go do these things, and they're funding it from overseas. And and we're sitting there and looking at this one sliver of the situation and acting like that's the only important part of it. And the article says a lot of neat things. One of the neat things it says is that we don't keep statistics on diversity in the cannabis community. And then it goes on to make pointed statements about statistics that they just said didn't exist, based on the interviews of 150 people, from whether they were in the cannabis industry on a retail side, lawyers, and a couple other people that they said were involved in the cannabis industry. And they made all these assumptions, and it goes to follow a guy, this story about um, a person who didn't exactly have a great upbringing and made mistakes, and then was felt as if they were being treated unjustly when they tried to enter the cannabis community for the mistakes that they made in the past. And I think that when you look at the legislation, it absolutely 100% should be taking away cannabis possession charges, or in my opinion, it should be, if you have grown, cultivated, processed, been caught in possession or consumption of cannabis, any non-violent crime should be just wiped out. I mean, you're just done. If you're hurting people, and then yes, obviously that kind of transcends just a cannabis. Like some guy getting caught with 2 grams of some fluffy weed that he got from some guy he's you know down the street or whatever, and he just happens to get caught, or the guy that gets caught roasting a joint in the woods away from everyone else and just wants 30 minutes to himself to smoke a joint out with some trees, and then he's getting ticketed or arrested for possession and smoking when he was hurting no one. As long as you're not starting fires or anything, let's be safe here, guys. Um, but people of all these different backgrounds and people from all across the world are being injured by the war on drugs. This transcends the necessity to look at something through, horse goggles. We need to look at this from a much broader perspective, and we need to take a step back out of our own troubles and our own situations and look at this in a global aspect and say, this war on cannabis has hurt us all globally, from every country in the world. We have been affected negatively by this. There are so many people around the world who have been arrested, ticketed, beat by police, whatever. It is shot, murdered over cannabis. It's fucking ridiculous. And to look at it through such a narrow vision, albeit personal for a lot of people, and there are a lot of people who are affected by this, and will feel more emotionally attached to the situation that they experience. But we have to take a step back and understand that we have people just like us from all walks of life who are being left out of this. We have people who have had possession charges who are being left out of this industry. People who, were caught smoking, or people who smoke medicinally in a state where it's not medical, who have to stop using cannabis as a medicine so they can pee clean to work, which in turn for some people it's a huge pain reliever. Like for me, it is just sometimes the only thing that helps. And so those people suffer physically so they can pee clean for a job so they don't starve to death over a fucking plant. And mind you, this plant it's wonderful and does a lot of great things, and we've discovered this, and there's thousands of studies from around the world that echo these thoughts and that prove this on an undoubtable scale that this is medicinal. And to look at it again, I know I'm making my point over and over here, but I want to really get this across, that the war on drugs has hurt everybody in one way or another. And we have to understand that so we can stand together in the fight to eliminate the war on drugs. Because if you have 50 different small communities coming after the war on drugs, it may not look as big of a movement as if all of those movements collaborated together and was saying, we don't want this anymore. You were wrong. And the people, the collective group of people, have come together and said that you're wrong. And when we say you're wrong, you're wrong. We have experts in neurology, experts in science, experts in the medical industry are unanimous in a lot of ways that cannabis is a medicine, and we have to decriminalize. So that opens the doors for us to be the leader in what it means to be a cannabis user in this modern society. We can be the leader in the medical science, being able to isolate the cannabinoids and isolate the terpenes, isolate the various levels of THC, and figure out what they can and cannot do, what they can and cannot treat, so we can get people real fucking treatments. And as opposed to these heinous chemicals of chemotherapy or the radiation therapy or whatever kind of therapy, if there is a way for us to utilize cannabis to save the lives of millions of people for generations to come, I think it's our fucking obligation to take a step back and join hands with the person next to us to really bring a sense of community and just not even a community, a sense of just common fucking sense. We have to stand together and we have to stop putting each other in boxes. We are humans who want cannabis. We are not subsections of humans, and because we've all again experienced these hardships around the world. And so stand together on these issues. I am so tired of people putting me in a box, putting you in a box, calling you something and putting a stereotype on you that you don't need to have on you or I don't need to have on me, because it changes the conversation that we have. It changes the conversation to where I'm defending myself even though I'm trying to make a point that that has nothing to do with what your problem would have been with me had this not even shown up, because we put each other in boxes. We need to approach this on a human to human level. The war on drugs has to stop. But so does the conversation about who's being hurt more. It doesn't matter who's being hurt more. It matters is that it's hurting people. And because it's hurting people, regardless of the level, we need to, those people, those hurt people, and the people that have been fortunate enough to not be hurt by this need to stand together with those that were hurt, because it could have been you, and you might have just been in the right place at the right time, or might have just dodged a few bullets, or might have been quiet enough about it, whatever the reason was. But we need to stand together, hurt or not. Hurt pain level 1, pain level 10, doesn't matter. Everything in between. We have to detach ourselves a little and use these experiences as billboards to end the war on drugs and keep big money from people who helped perpetuate those negative stereotypes, or people that were not ever there for you when cannabis was illegal. Companies who showed no compassion to you as a medical patient. Companies like, or banks, for example, who should have been backing the cannabis industry from day one, and then suddenly people get, the federal government changes their mind, and all of a sudden banks are totally for it because they want the money. They want that money. But we have to look at these people and say, you're not going to ruin this for us. Just because we have decided collectively as the people of this country that we want cannabis to be decriminalized or legalized and regulated under common sense laws and regulation, just because we do this and set the foundation for greatness doesn't mean the people with all this fucking money have to be the only ones to profit from the things that we just put in place for us to be able to do. You cannot let them take that from you. You can't let people bottleneck an industry with legislation and prevent people from being able to have an equal opportunity at creating a cannabis business. As is with anything, if I have too many stores opening up, of course, people know this about economics and supply and demand. The business owners know these things. So you can't assume stupidity with people. You have to assume that they're going to at least have a shot at knowing what they're doing. Knowing that you can't put 4 stores next to each other and then expect all 4 to be successful. I mean, these things will work themselves out, and businesses will be successful or they won't. And that is just a part of opening a business in general. And we can't just separate cannabis from everything else. It's not really that much different in a business aspect. You're either going to succeed or you're not. And businesses have to be treated separately and cannot be bottled together as saying, because this one store does something I don't agree with, that they all do this. I'm a firm believer that diversity should be an absolute fucking thing in a workplace. And I believe that every cannabis business should of course, being open-minded towards anybody, regardless of where they come from, or in terms of being hired for a retail spot or a delivery spot or a manufacturing producer spot, whatever. I'm firm belief that the door should remain open to everybody. But the big thing is we have to address these case by case. The generalization of people puts people in a very negative position. And if you put all these people who don't deserve to be put in that position there, now they're involved in a fight that they had no part in. They had no desire to be put in this fight. And to call out 34 to 3,600 stores and cannabis related businesses on the spot is wow. Just really, can we not ruin this again? Almost took too big of a hit. Holy shit. So that update was a little bit longer than I thought it was going to be. I got a little carried away. But I hope that we can all agree on that. On this being open-minded with each other and standing together against big money in cannabis. And, well, not even just big money, but corrupt money in cannabis. And we can stand together on accountability for each other and understanding that we have to be shining examples to eliminate the stigma, the negative stigma that is put upon us. And we can work together on that step by step. But that first step is being accepting of each other and open-minded and open-hearted with each other. Once we get there, then we can really show the rest of the world and the rest of the country and the federal government that cannabis is a respectable industry. It is an industry that is blossoming into something absolutely beautiful. It will create thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of jobs across the entire country. It'll open up the hemp market again and hemp cultivation, and farmers can make money on hemp and hemp, producing, and this opens up so much money and so many jobs. We can't get caught up in these details. We can't get caught up in being separated from each other because we need each other. So I hope that we can all agree on that. And I hope that as we put forth our efforts into making things decriminalized and legal for all to grow and legal for all to purchase and consume without fear of losing a job over it or a job title or whatever, that we keep in mind that we are in this together. Because if you don't have your neighbor, you don't have his back, What kind of neighbor are you? And what kind of neighbor are they if they don't have your back? I don't know. I'm rambling, I think, at this point. My point has been made. So, if you want to look up the article, I highly implore you to read the article and form your own opinion. I will not ever tell you or try and force my ideals on you. I want you to have your own opinion. I want you to educate yourself on this because some people might say I'm coming from a different position. Some people might say that my walk of life doesn't allow me to have the correct perspective. So I don't know. Read it for yourself, educate yourself, and form your own opinion and do all that fun stuff. Because I certainly did. And talking about it. But this conversation can happen without, I don't fear that I'm going to be perceived in a negative light. I hope not, but I don't really fear it because it opens a conversation, and that's what this is all about. So I want you guys to stay orangey, always flush responsibly. I love you all, and have a great rest of your weekend.